Hello and welcome everyone to episode 85 of the GGG Podcast. I'm Paul and we got a great show for you. Joining me, not as always, because Phil is out this week, is my good friend Sam. He is a video game aficionado, a Elden Ring expert. We have been playing games together for a very, very long time. Sam, how are you doing? And have you been playing any video games this week?
I'm doing great. Thank you for bringing me on to the podcast. I've been back on Helldivers a little bit, playing with the new Warbond, and checking out the new Darktide update, because I still am not quite up to level 30 with the new DLC character, the Arbites. But yeah, those are pretty much the only two. I've been pretty busy the last week, as you know.
Yes.
Went and got married this last weekend, so I was very busy preparing for that. But in the waning hours when there was a little bit more free time out, that's basically what I've been playing. What about you?
Right on. I mean, as you know as well, I have also been busy. Just got back from a trip, so I was separated from my PC, my consoles, my everything, and so I really just had time to play video games yesterday. Played some Party Animals with you and a group of friends last night. Always fun.
Right, we did play some Party Animals.
Yeah. Not really a game that I play very often, but when I do, I always have a good time. So I've been playing that, and then I've just been rehooked back into No Man's Sky for whatever reason. I don't know, but like I think what happened with my original run is I got stuck in the mid game, and now I'm like figuring out the late game, and not the meta, because that doesn't really exist in that type of game,
right?
You know, but like what I should be doing as someone who's been playing it for as long as I have, where it's more like galactic conquest and sending your freighter and fleets out and all of this, and like generating like a strong economy. And I'm still like learning things in the game that I didn't know before. Like this morning, I played a mission that I had never played before. And I was just like, how is this? Cool. How is this possible? So I'm having fun with that. I think it still might be on sale on Steam if anybody is interested in picking it up out there. But yeah, that's primarily been my focus. I did play a single mission of Helldivers with the Warbond. Seemed cool. But it was just one mission. So I do like the new rifle. Really like the new rifle quite a bit.
The new rifle is pretty solid, but honestly, I mean, like I'm trying to get that teleportation backpack. But the thing that really sold it for me was the laser turret. You know that I love the laser weapons in Helldivers. So having like an orbital laser and a backpack laser drone, and then like a heavy laser, like all the lasers all the time. So now that I can be deploying laser turrets that are adding an additional dimension to my laser game, I'm going to be Laser Man all the time. I don't know if that's a character in that Death Stranding game that you and Simon are always talking about. But Laser Man should be a character, and it should be me.
Right on. And lasers are so versatile because they're good on all of the different enemies. So like I feel like a laser is always a good idea in that game. All right.
Yeah, they keep buffing up, but yeah. Enough of that.
All right, we are going to get into our major game releases and some exciting news that we got this week. We're going to be talking about Ghost of Yotei for the main topic. But before we get into all of that, if you haven't already liked and subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. We really appreciate it. And if you're listening to the audio only version on Spotify or Apple Podcast, follow us over there as well. Our major game releases, we talked about it on our last episode. Donkey Kong Bananza came out pretty much last week now at this point, but we were off. I know that Phil has acquired a Switch 2 and has acquired Donkey Kong Bananza, so he's going to be giving us our full Donkey Kong Bananza rundown next week when he's back. But from all of the reviews that have been coming out, it's looking pretty good. It's looking like people are saying this is a Game of the Year contender. On Metacritic, I think it's hovering like around a 90 or a 91, something like that. So Astrobot, who was last year's Game of the Year, got a 94. in the same genre. So I honestly think the only thing that might hold it back from being Game of the Year is like, well, we gave Game of the Year to a cartoony platformer last year. So I don't know. What do you think, Sam? I'm sure you've seen all the media around Donkey Kong Bonanza. Does it make you want to switch to at all?
I've seen a lot of the fanfare around Donkey Kong, and I'm really excited that there's finally a new Donkey Kong, because it's not one of the... I think Donkey Kong gets a lot more love than the most obscure Nintendo characters, but I think it's been a while since there's been like a mainstay Donkey Kong game, and it does look like a really fun game. Yeah. Personally, I'm just in a place in my life where I have to be a little bit more careful when I'm making a hardware purchase as big as like the Switch 2. And I don't know that this is the game that, for me personally, is the thing that's going to compel me to like shell that much money out over one console. Mm-hmm. I'm also, as much as I grew up playing a little bit of Mario Kart, that's also hasn't been the game that I've been like, driven to get, pun fully intended. But I do see why people are excited about this game, and I think that when I do finally see that product that is like, okay, here's the Nintendo game I need to get, I think that Donkey Kong is one of the ones that I'm gonna have to backtrack and grab, because I do have fond memories of Donkey Kong Country, but it's really more a game that my brother played, not me, and so it's something I have some nostalgia for, but I didn't put a lot of hours in. But yeah, I mean, it looks good. I'm not a huge Nintendo fan at the moment. I'm not like attached to any of their hardware right now.
Is there a game like if it was a Zelda game, do you think that would be a console pusher for you? Or a Smash Brothers game?
I think it would have to be one of the two. I don't think that I'm going to get any of my weird-ass, obscure Nintendo games. Like, I think we're never going to get the attention over in the corner of, like, the F-Zero fandom.
Oh, sure.
And... oddly, at a time where furries are getting more accepted at every day, they will not go back and make some more Star Fox. It boggles the mind. Where are you at, Nintendo? There's all kinds of weirdos out there that would go apeshit over Star Fox just in that side of things. But Star Fox was a fun game, and there's a lot of really cool things to tear into when you're looking at like a sci-fi franchise. But I don't know. I also recognize that they don't want to compete with themselves, and they have already kind of staked the sci-fi claim on Metroid. Right. And we've gotten 2 good releases on that already. Between I don't know if Prime 2 is out already or if that's coming up.
I think it's coming in October, I want to say.
So between that and the side-scrolling one that came out a couple of years ago on Switch 1, there have been some great releases for Metroid, and I don't see Nintendo competing with themselves for sci-fi. So for me, it's going to have to be a new Smash Bros. Or a very new take on Zelda, because I love Zelda, a lot of nostalgia for it, but I don't know how much time I have for it now that I've played so many of that game.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think a lot of people kind of shared the sentiment with Tears of the Kingdom that it was a very good game, but it just felt like Breath of the Wild, but more. And so it didn't... I know like some of the tools used, like going through the floor and different puzzle mechanics, those were original and everything like that. But it still felt very much like this is Breath of the Wild 0.5 or something in that direction.
I would rather they like pull the scope of the world back and then make it more focused. Something more like Uncharted 4's kind of take on like, okay, yeah, there's definitely a direct path and a side path and another side path, but there's also an order of operations that you cannot escape. Mm-hmm. And that actually makes it so that we can tell a better focused story, and we can actually do we can do the sequences that we intend the player to play through more justice when we know the parameters of how they're going to approach it a lot more clearly. Sure. You and I talk about Uncharted 4 a lot, and as far as like kind of grasping that middle ground of like, it feels like I'm in an open world. You're not in an open world. I'd like Zelda to look at something like that.
Sure. a little bit more linear, and that way the developers can do more detail work, which I think is a sentiment that could be applied to a lot of games in the industry right now. But let's move on to our second major release. This game came out yesterday, the day prior to us recording this, and that is Wildgate. This game has been in beta for quite some time, but it has officially released. It should be available on all platforms, if I'm not mistaken. And if you're unfamiliar with Wildgate, it is largely Sea of Thieves in space. It looks very cool. I'll be honest, if I'm being truthful, I thought that this was a game that was competing with another space game that I really like called Jump Ship, and that I've talked about on this podcast before. And Jump Ship is a game that I've played with you, Sam. And so I see this as kind of a competitor to Jump Ship, and so I've been avoiding it in this passive aggressive way. But it looks cool. It looks very cartoony. It's from the company Dreamhaven, who has been put together from an ex-president of Blizzard. So it definitely has a very Blizzard-y look and feel, especially to the graphics and everything on like that. And from the trailers, it looks fun. I just don't trust that I'm going to, kind of similar to a Battlefield trailer. It looks really cool. I don't know if that's going to be my experience playing it. It looks a very you directed this trailer to such a T that, oh, you pop out there and I'll slip in when I'm invisible, or I'll blow through the door, or stuff like that. Yeah, if that makes sense.
All of these. There's always so many promotional sentiments about well, you can really choose your own way to go about playing the game, and then you go and you actually enter multiplayer, and then you try to play your own way even, and then the other players in the lobby are like, what are you doing? You're supposed to do this and then that, and then we leave. Why are you wasting our time playing it in a weird... You're like, but the promo said we could do it.
Yeah.
It's yeah, we could, but nobody does that. Why are you an idiot?
Yes, the meta. You're not doing the meta on day one.
So I not to advocate for that philosophy at all, right? But so often you go into a game and it's you can do it any way you want. I'm we could do it one of 3 ways probably, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
It looks very pretty. I will say the models and the design of everything is very pretty. I think I need to get my hands on this one to know for sure, but from the look of the gameplay snippets, if you just look at them in as much of a vacuum as you can put them in, it feels slow and stiff.
Oh, okay.
From a mouse and keyboard standpoint. All of the character models are really pristine, really well done. You and I were just talking about how it's kind of got that kind of Pixar, Blizzard Overwatchy
kind of a cartoony Concord. Probably Concord. Yeah. This is the game it should have been. Maybe.
Maybe we'll never know. Who's to say? You and I were the only jackasses that liked that game, I guess. But. I will say it does kind of just have that. That seems to be a new aesthetic that every new video game in space seems to have taken, is this, we can't decide on what the alien factions are in our universe, so we just let the animators make whoever we want, and boom, that's a skin. I can kind of vibe with that in a lot of senses, but it kind of looks a little slow and stiff. I would have to play it myself to be sure, and I don't know that I saw anything here that brings me to paying them money to play the game.
Yeah, this is a classic go to YouTube and watch the before you buy video for me. So I know Sea of Thieves wasn't really my thing personally. Not to say that it's not a good game. But I know space is a more appealing setting for my tastes. So maybe that's enough to get me to buy it, but I don't know. I'm gonna hold off on this one for now. All right, so let's get into the news. So Peak, the video game that has been taking social media by storm. Apparently this has been going on for this last month, but the developers have been connecting to random lobbies in the game, and they have a tool that lets them voice act for the plushie Bing-Bong in the game. So for certain lobbies, if you get Bing-Bong to the top of the mountain, the developer will tune in and be like, "We made it, we did it together," and then they'll leave, and like players will be like, "Did Bing-Bong just talk? What just happened?" So I think that's hilarious. Not much of a story here, but I just had to share that because that's really fun. So
I find that delightful. I really dig the kind of experimental approach that is kind of creeping out of the woodwork between games like this and games. I don't know. Like, I love the idea of developers interacting with their community in the game in ways that only they can.
Yeah. 100%. Or like Joel and Helldivers, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, Joel and Helldivers is one thing, that's fun, but you also kind of get the sense that it's like, okay, this is also like a fun flavor of community management where, like, you know, obviously they have a pipeline of content that they need to have a clear plan and strategy for the people actually developing the game to work on, and his job is to kind of build a fun narrative around why that's happening now in the universe we're experiencing. But, like, I do kind of enjoy the idea, you know, people have talked about, I've never experienced it, and I don't know how many players actually have experienced it, but, like, people have talked about Joel, like, logging in mid-match and, like, taking control of stuff or like,
here's the Jeep before it's released, kind of a thing.
Right.
Yep.
I don't know how true any of that is. I don't know how often it actually happens, but it's the kind of thing that makes you a little bit more excited about what's ostensibly just a game master, like an admin. But, like, I don't know. I really like the DM. Even if it's a facade, it's a very well cultivated one. And I really like hearing stuff like this, and having fun with the people that are giving you access to the fun makes it feel a lot more communal.
Absolutely. So, and Peak's been such a fun social game. So this is another perfect little cherry on top. All right, pressing right along. Battlefield 6 is finally going to be shown to the public. It's going to be, I think they're going to do like a press release tomorrow. And tomorrow from the day we're recording this, I'll try to get this out tonight. We will see. But yeah, Sam, Phil and I have talked about Battlefield 6 a bit on the podcast, and there really just hasn't been a lot of news. And I think the bigger discussion that I want to talk to you about, we've played Battlefield a lot together. We've bought a lot of Battlefield games hoping that this one's going to be different. This one isn't just going to be for the hardcore snipers, you know. But is there something that Battlefield 6 can do that will, like, bring people back into the community and perhaps like more, like, slightly more casual fans?
Yes.
Okay.
There are a lot of things that they could do. There's a lot of things they could do that would bring me back immediately, that I know that they have the power to do because they've done it in the past. Mm-hmm. The question is, who is EA going to decide to be for this release? Because it's like EA Games is sometimes the worst fucking company in the industry. But then every now and then, it's like, oh yeah, here's Jedi Survivor, which is like I'm playing that game again, and I'm like, look, this is not the best action RPG I've ever played, but it is so fucking good. That game is so fun.
Yeah.
And it's got me right into, like, the Star Wars universe as a Jedi again, which is kind of something that's harder to take seriously for me after Andor. I'm one of those hipsters that's like, this is the only Star Wars media now.
Yeah.
I'm not actually. I love Star Wars, but it is going to take some time for me to pace myself back into the more childish stuff, and I think, like, Jedi Survivor just, like, writes that line of, like, this is written mature. The graphics are great. Mm-hmm. The gameplay is great. The story is good, and the dialogue is pretty good. So every now and then EA can decide, hey, remember, we're the people that made Mass Effect. Like,
Yeah.
we're the company that did Titanfall. We are a really good company when we want to be. They just also ever so often decide to be, the company that made Anthem.
Yeah. Who just shut down the Anthem servers last week, by the way.
I mean, God bless the 8 people still fucking playing that game. But.
So apparently, there was a resurgence with it among a younger generation who had never played the game. And they were like, "This game is awesome. Why did this game, like, essentially no updates or anything like that?" And it's like, yeah, we all thought that. We all thought it was going to be awesome. And like,
you and me both, kids.
Like, it looks great. It looks great.
Like, Iron Man co-op RPG from the guys that made Mass Effect. There's a lot to love about that. And there's a lot that even felt good at launch in that game. But yeah, it was also victim to just, like, it was one of the first victims of this very common internet trend now of, if you don't have a metagame in place within 5 days of your launch, for some reason that tanks your game forever internally. Like,
I mean, I think we're seeing that right now with Monster Hunter Wilds. So, like, that game hit so hard for a month, and then its active player numbers just tanked. And I don't know. I understand that one a little bit more, but yeah, it's true. You got to have, because there's these hardcore people, the people who are chirping on X and Twitter and getting on Reddit. Those are the people who is like, "Where's all the content?" And they're like 70 hours into the game. It's like, well, you just played it. You just played.
Yeah.
You just played the content. So
we gave you press access, and you are the one that is beginning this narrative that there's not enough for you to do in the end game, but like. A lot of that is the result of you having nothing to do with your time but play our game like it's a part-time job. I'm not criticizing people that review games or like have to use that extra time to understand a piece before they go online and write something about it. But I do think that there has kind of been a thoughtlessness in how a lot of the press release, pre-release of these games and the sentiment around, well, what am I supposed to do after this? Supposedly, they're going to put a raid in at the end of September, but how am I supposed to know? Like,
take a break.
You're filling the game with so much doubt before you really reflect on what you enjoyed about it. And again, I understand that a lot of these people's jobs is to come up with a critically accurate
but if it is their
take.
job, it's also their responsibility to like have realistic expectations of how long the game is going to be,
right?
So.
And to understand that some of those features aren't going to be able to be fully realized. There's a balance there, right? Like they can't go in the other direction either. I don't know what the answer is, but like I do think that the narrative is often driven by very popular faces and reviewers and kind of celebrities on YouTube have taken this narrative a little too far in some cases.
Sure. And hopefully, Battlefield 6 is not going to be a game that goes through that because it's a competitive game. And so it's just going to be like, oh, can I prestige or something along those lines. So,
again, they have the money and the tech to do a lot of different things that would give you right back. It's just who EA decides to be.
That's a very good way of putting it. And let me tell you, Ubisoft is deciding who they want to be, because in a recent interview they said that microtransactions make games fun, make them more enjoyable, because they offer players alternatives to skip past certain things they don't want to do in the game, or to level up faster, or to make sure that they look exactly how they want to look. And that, to them, is saying it's more fun. And to me, I'm like, I think you're framing this in a way of like, let's turn our experience dials up so it takes longer to grind, and not acknowledge that, and then say, oh, well, we're giving them options, and that option is they can pay us to to support our game.
They're completely blowing past the part where, like, well, we are the ones that artificially set the goalpost of like how much time the player needs to put in to acquire these things. And maybe in a very real sense, like a casino, we know if we surround you with all these very pretty things and like dollar signs around them. Oh, how many times are you going to sit there and clock in for your part-time job in Assassin's Creed Odyssey before you're like, I'll just pay the $5 for the headdress? And it's not just $5, it's like $20.
It adds up. Yeah, it's I mean, it makes a whole lot of sense, you know, playing these most recent Assassin's Creeds and everything like that. Like, I didn't feel it was too imposing like in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I didn't pick up Shadows, so I don't know how intertwined the microtransactions are in that game. But
you could guess.
Yeah, I can guess. And this is just such a weird statement to put out. Like, I would much rather Ubisoft just be like, look, you know, we have a lot bigger teams and we need the store to pay for our employees and to pay for these teams and to make sure that we continue updating and making the games better. And so that's why we have microtransactions. But
well, they know that's bullshit too.
Well, but at least it's a reasonable argument that you're like, all right, you may not like it, but they're running a business and that's how it's going. But instead, they're framing it in like they're doing us a favor, and that drives me absolutely crazy. That is so ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised in the slightest that it's Ubisoft making this kind of sentiment. After all, they're the company who's wasn't it their president that. Before all this uproar about who owns their own games, wasn't it them that started it? Where their president famously was like,
"It's a license."
Yeah, I mean, gamers need to get used to not owning the games that they purchase.
Yeah,
and it's, you know, and on a legal standpoint, I get what he's saying about the current situation about that license and all that, but yeah, just there's a very tone-deaf disconnect at Ubisoft between like what their strategy in the market is, and like who's going to be reading those sentiments and like saying them back at the community. Like, I really don't think that they hear themselves at all when they say things like that. When they're like, people prefer to pay us more money in the middle of the game for no reason.
Yeah,
it's like. It's a game. Every element, every stage, everything that keeps me from any goal that I'm trying to accomplish is set by you. So if you just remove those, I'll have the fun that you're talking about, and it won't cost me more money.
Yep. It could just be a regular unlock, like those good old Ubisoft games. Oh, yeah. I don't really know. I'm waiting for Ubisoft to be acquired by someone. I think, you know, there's been a lot of press that we've talked about on this podcast this year about Ubisoft having massive layoffs and potentially looking for a buyer. So we'll see if that ends up happening. And I know Assassin's Creed Shadows was like a semi-success, but they've been setting their sales expectations way too high. And just to something I remembered, kind of going back to the last story of Battlefield 6. So EA expects, so maybe this will answer your question a little bit, Sam, about which EA is going to show up. EA expects that Battlefield 6 will reach 100 million players. For a reference point, the last Battlefield, 2042, only ever reached 20 million players. And that's not all at one time. It's just how many people have ever logged in and played a game of Battlefield 2042. So I think there's a lot of these companies, they're putting out these crazy sales expectations. Ubisoft's been doing it. They did it with Skull and Bones last year, where they think, oh, we're going to, but the gaming industry is this big. It's like a bad episode of Shark Tank. And it's like, that means we can automatically have this portion of the market.
That's a really good way of putting it. Like, I do feel like there are a lot of promotionals that are going all the way out to the public that really, like, you should not be saying this shit in the press, bro.
Yeah.
Like, Skull and Bones was not, in fact, the first quadruple A game. Like, it was a steaming pile of dog shit, and nobody talks about it anymore. You can't take anything Ubisoft says about their own product seriously, and I would go so far as to say, yeah, like, any sentiment that big, you should begin speculating wildly about what that company is actually doing with that money, or like what they're doing with their time. Because, like, the first quadruple A game, I'm like,
why
really?
Is it so expensive? Why?
So how is this better than Halo 3 times Grand Theft Auto 5? Like, how is this like not plus, times? Like, how is it like, work with me here? How is this Grand Theft Auto 6 times Avengers Endgame? Like, what, like,
yeah.
Quadruple A? What the fuck does that mean?
Nothing. It's just a fancy word to plaster on their marketing. All right, so let's press on a little bit. So we got some news today. As I think we brought up a couple episodes ago, Amazon is officially moving forward with a Mass Effect series. Now, this is, when I say moving forward, they are going to make a pilot. So that does not mean that there will necessarily be a full Mass Effect show that releases to the public. But
it just means actors are going to get paid to get into costume and read a script.
Yes, exactly. So, but the good news, or at least in my opinion, the good news is that they are taking the Fallout TV show team that originally did like all of the storyboarding and all of the research and everything like that, and they are putting that specific production team onto Mass Effect. And I don't think this is a minority opinion. I think the Fallout TV show was amazing, and I'm not a big Fallout fan, so I think it's better than the Fallout games, to be honest. And I know they're not the exact same genre, but like, that gives me hope that a Mass Effect show could be good, because I felt like the Fallout TV show really stuck to the reality of the universe in Fallout. And they didn't be like, oh yeah, you can just inject a stim and it'll just fix your bone. And that's just how it works in Fallout, right? And so I think like showing that they're that committed to that reality was like, okay, maybe they'll be committed to the video game reality that Mass Effect sets up in the games. My only question is I feel like the Fallout TV show was very successful because they weren't trying to retell a story that Fallout has already told. And so I'm curious to see if this is going to be a retelling of the Mass Effect game. And so the writers have a lot less flexibility there. But that's my only like question mark around this. Sam, I know you're a huge Mass Effect fan. What's your reaction to this news?
I think similarly to you, I'm really glad to hear that it's the guys that worked on Fallout, because I think you and I had a similar experience. We both started kind of chatting to each other about gaming when we met in high school. So I think you and I both had a similar experience of Fallout, where it was like, aesthetically, the idea of like the 1950s and the 1960s, but taken into this kind of retro futurist idea, is like a really cool aesthetic. And we just didn't vibe with how bad the engine looked.
Yes.
And how clunky the gameplay felt back in even back in the 360 era. It was like, we had other things to point to, like Halo and Gears of War.
Yeah.
And so I think that we had not quite been taken in by Fallout yet, but there were things that we liked about it, and I think seeing how much they took that universe and adapted it with love, but still managed to tell a unique story that took place very much within that universe, I think that that's a tremendous accomplishment, and I think that like just thinking in terms of the people that were old enough to play, experience, and understand what worked about Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, which are really clear influences on the show, would have been about the right age to be playing the Mass Effect trilogy when that was coming out as well. And so I think that is kind of what gives me hope for Mass Effect as a TV show, is that whatever story they go with, I do feel like it's a team of people who understand the medium. Like, they understand how to translate a universe that has only existed behind 2 thumbsticks and 2 triggers into something that an audience that has maybe never played a video game before is still going to get a genuine introduction to that universe. That makes me feel very secure. But I also have the question, like you do, that is my next question, is like, okay, so where are you? Yeah,
is
where
the
are
Shepherd,
you in the timeline?
Is this the First Contact War? Like, what are we talking about right here? So I think First Contact would be awesome. I think that would be my preference, honestly. Like the Turian conflict and everything like that. But yeah, I don't know. I do not know.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's my big question for Mass Effect 4 or whatever the next Mass Effect game is, though, as well, is that it's like, what does this look like in terms of a universe where we were supposedly given control of the ending of the story? It would be great to see a story that honors the decision-making of the players somehow. But I think the best way to do that would probably, unfortunately, be to say, okay, we're going to devote 3 or 5 seasons of a TV show to telling our version of Shepard's story, and then whatever stories we do in the universe have to be built around the sort of our decisions that we made that are the canon of this Mass Effect universe.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that that's the right call. I agree that like the First Contact War or some of the times that we haven't seen in the games but we've heard reference to might be the better place to kind of do a smaller scale story. Don't talk about huge galaxy-ending conflict with the Reapers and shit like that. Like, maybe that's not the right call at all. Maybe like really ground it around Anderson and Saren.
I think like a young Anderson would be awesome.
That could be really cool.
Yeah.
Just retell the story of how he like lost out on his
being a Spectre.
His go at being a Spectre.
Yeah.
That could be a great story to tell as a movie.
Absolutely.
Or as a TV show.
Yeah. I'm pumped. I hope the pilot's good and they push it through for a full season and everything like that, but we are gonna have to wait and see. Got 2 more news topics before we get into Yost of Yotei. First up is Mafia the Old Country. We finally got a deep dive of gameplay. We've gotten a lot of cinematics that have been released about this game, but this was the first full access. IGN got access to it, and I believe Games Radar and a couple of other places got access to it as well. But it was good to finally see gameplay, see somebody actually playing the game, and not just watching a cutscene of characters talking. Although we got lots of that as well. But yeah, for me it looked pretty good. My big question about the game was: is the game going to be linear, or is it going to go to the open world format? And it sounds like they are 100% committing to the linear narrative. Which all of the people who talked about this game, they seemed like that was the right choice, because even though it does feel like a very linear game, it's like, wow, because it was linear, they could really take their time with the graphics, and the graphics look absolutely incredible. And there's some choice like, oh, you can upgrade your knife, or you can, switch knives, you can get a different horse, like that kind of stuff. But largely you're playing from story beat to story beat in the game. And also because of that, they have announced that the game is actually going to release at $50 instead of $70, or which is becoming the new norm, the $80 price point. So happy to see another game releasing at $50. And like when you have a linear story game like that, I think that's the right decision. because as we were talking about earlier, lots of gamers nowadays have this expectation of just like, that game was 20 hours, where's the rest of it? And it's just like, no, that's it. That was the experience. They made a quality experience that they squished, as opposed to this endless thing, but the quality wasn't quite there. So I'm happy with what I saw from the game, and at that price point, I might pick it up. So I think that makes it a lot more likely that I'll pick it up over a $70 game.
Yeah, no, I mean, just hearing that, I am way more likely to pick it up, just because I'm like, this is not a franchise that I have really attached myself to at any point, but the graphics are really pretty. I'm all for current gen games that actually look like that Unreal Engine 5 that I've heard so much about in almost the last decade. And you never see it. You saw it in this one game, Concord, but you can't play that anymore. It doesn't exist. It's very pretty. It looks very compellingly fun. We were just talking about the Uncharted 4 effect of, like, do we need an open world game to sell the idea that the world you're playing in is big, or do we just need to give you the 5 or 6 vistas that we researched and wanted to give you the opportunity to see? Like, can't we do that and not overload the player with all these choices that aren't really choices? It's just meandering ADHD. Like, why are we... Like, I love that shit, right? But, like, I also don't need it in every game.
Yeah.
And like, I think especially for Mafia to say, hey, we don't need to try to be Grand Theft Auto set in the 20s. Like, we don't need to try to take on the giant that is Grand Theft Auto just because we're a mob game. Like, I think it's great that they're like, no, here's our story. When it's over, it's over. And you can fuck off and play something else if you want to.
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm down for it. Speaking of effing off, so Splitgate 2 has officially announced that they will be unlaunching the game. With all this reference to Concord this episode, I want to clarify, the game will still be available to play to everyone who has played it or who wants to download it, but they are returning to, instead of having it officially launched, it's returning to a beta format or an early access format, where they are just going to work on the things that they already have in the game and refine them. And there's a lot of cuts coming with this as well, because the game did not sell well. It is a free-to-play game, but there's lots of microtransaction in it. And I just think this was handled so sloppily. As someone who has played Splitgate 2, I played it in the alpha, I played it in the beta, and I played the official release. And I would say the alpha was pretty rough, but the beta to now is pretty much the exact same game. I haven't really seen any updates past that point, but like the whole thing with the hat, the make FPS great again, it's like, dude, you know that's a political reference. You realize you're going to be isolating yourself from half of gamers out there who don't want to be reminded of that. And then you're like, I make FPS great again. I'm sick of COD. I grew up on Halo. I'm sick of everybody repeating all these things. And so we've made a game where we've copied all of those other games I've mentioned, and we're putting them into a game. And then in an interview, when he was talking about the microtransaction store in the game, he's like, yeah, I just recently found out that we had an $80 pack that you can buy. And I did not realize we were pricing things that steeply. And it's just like, you're the CEO. You need to know how your free-to-play game is doing its pricing. And so,
you definitely need to do that before you go on what sounds like a coked out bit, like just rage against the establishment that you are like trying to simultaneously, like, I don't know. The guy kind of admitted that he was like doing the same shit even before he's like, oh, I didn't know we were pricing it that steep. It's like, but yeah, like you said, it's fuck all these games. We're gonna put their content in our game. It's like,
yeah, it's
what are you doing, bro? Who is this for?
Yeah.
Who's this message to?
And who's in charge? Because you're clearly not him. So I don't know. I will say, like, I think that Splitgate 2 is a good game. I think the pricing is something you and I have talked about before, Sam. It's kind of like Warframe, where it's like Warframe is a good game, especially now it's been updated so many times. It feels like a completely different game than it is now, or than it used to be. But there's pricing packs that are like $100, and it's like this is a free to play game. Give me things from $1 to $30 max. Or give me a battle pass. They do have a battle pass system in the game, but that range is pretty wide. There's like 3 different versions of the battle pass you can buy. And it's just riddled with this. You're not trying to get $60 out of a consumer. You're trying to get everybody to spend $10. That's the point of a free-to-play game. You're trying to sell somebody of like, you're buying that $10 ticket. Okay, Marvel Rivals, I'll get the Battle Pass. Okay, the finals, I'll get the Battle Pass. That's what you're trying to do. But instead, you cluttered it with all of this stuff, and you've already added all these cool things in the game that are unlockable. It's like, why am I going to spend the extra money for this skin that looks just like this other skin? I don't know. It's a hot mess, and I hope they fix it. So.
Yeah, and who can say, at least with a lot of the like higher profile stories about this kind of thing, it seems like a big contributor is like inflated paychecks at the top of the spectrum seems to be a massive influencer on why you suddenly can't support hundreds of your developers. It's like, that in the face of, the example that comes to mind is Bungie, the CEO getting like massive bonuses and pointing to these large expenditures in his personal life. What he does with his money in his own time is his business, but like, why is it his business to make such an astounding amount of money beyond his employees? Yeah. That's a question that I've never heard very good rationale leveled at, and you have to wonder, even in smaller scale situations like Splitgate, where it's like obviously they don't wield the kind of cash that somebody like Bungie or Sony do,
right?
But it does make you wonder, like, okay, so like, why are you being allowed to run the company and make that much, what I assume is a much larger amount of income than the rest of your employees under the responsibilities that you're supposed to have. Like, if those are your responsibilities, then why aren't you familiar with what's in your storefront before you?
Yeah,
you go on X and you go
that's
on a tirade.
Embarrassing. That's so embarrassing. Yeah, like it just tells me. I don't know. It's just poor leadership, it sounds like. I hope the game is able to rebound, because, again, I think that some of the core gameplay is quite fun.
It's solid.
But, like, the marketing and the pricing was a disaster. So I hope sad news, I forgot to mention, Splitgate 1 servers will be shut down as another cost-saving feature. But, honestly, if you're doing a sequel to a free-to-play game, you probably should take down the old servers. It's not like you can play Overwatch 1 right now. So yeah. All right, well, let's get into the main topic that I think we're both really excited to talk about. Ghost of Yotei. I had a state of play. It happened like a week and a half ago. We have been gone, so apologies for this being late, but I did want to actually talk about it because Sam and I are both huge fans of Ghost of Tsushima. I think we've both platinumed it or both gotten very close to platinuming it. So we're very excited about this game. There's a lot of stuff. It was like a 25-minute video of breakdown. So we're probably not going to talk about a lot of it, but I'll just bring up the number one thing that stood out to me first was instead of like sword stances like you had in Ghost of Tsushima, where it was like stone stance and water stance and wind stance, now you have weapon types. which is very exciting. And yes, they do conveniently go into the hero's video game pocket, so you can just instantly switch. So I'll give it a little grace there. But the 5 different weapon types, that seems very, very cool, and just how they were using them in the game. So do you like that change, Sam?
I honestly, I think that going into a new Ghost game, that was my first question, is like, are we just getting sword and bow and then a couple of thrown things? Because that's kind of all Jin played with. You know, he has like a grapple, and he has some tools that he kind of inserts in there. But like for the most part, when it came to just the straight up combat of the game, it was always samurai swords, and it was always a bow.
Right.
And so it's just seeing that they've got, you've got spears. You can do dual wielding now. Mm-hmm. You can do, I forget the name of it, but it's like the same style as a katana, but it's like the larger one. Yeah. Much longer blade. And so it's more like a slower, heavier, way more reach.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find the name.
Pretend
I think it's called the Adachi.
Odachi, yeah, yes. It's an Odachi. That thing looks rad. I'm totally going to be running around with an Odachi, and the other thing I'm going to be running around with is apparently a rifle, because there's going to be cannons, and there's a bunch of different options for ranged weapons in this one, including it looks like you could be able to do at least a rifle or musket thing. I don't know what the actual, I don't know, it's probably a Dutch word for whatever it is. I know that I think it was the Dutch that traded.
So there is a Japanese pronunciation. I'm not going to butcher that, but it is a matchlock rifle is the style.
Yeah. Anyway, that's rad. I hope she gets pistols. That would be even more cool.
Yeah.
But that's, even if she doesn't, this is really rad. I'm all about it. Other thing I was all about is that you can kind of, I don't know if you can choose to do this at random parts in the game, like it's something you select, or if it's just going to be contextual like it was in the first game. Mm-hmm. But I'm really excited about the companions that they've shown off in the game, particularly the wolf.
Yeah.
Looks rad as fuck.
Looks like there could be a lot more, though. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, because they kind of teased that sort of campfire system that a lot of bigger, sort of more overt RPGs have been playing with now, mm-hmm. Where it's like, okay, yeah, you're in the overworld, so you go to camp, and then you talk to all the people that are in your party, and they kind of alluded to those being tradesmen, people that can kind of upgrade your equipment or give you side quests to go get legendary equipment and stuff. But it also kind of seemed like the people that are a part of your wolf pack might also be some companions that can come with you on quests and help you fuck shit up, depending on what your playstyle is. Maybe you need them in very specific circumstances, and that's really exciting to me.
Yeah, super exciting. I'm also, just to stay on the weapons here for just a little bit, we played quite a bit of Ghost of Tsushima Legends, and mm-hmm. which is the multiplayer mode that got released a little bit after the game came out. And how it works in Legends is you had this is my fighting style. Or with this weapon, I have stone stance and I have water stance, but I don't have access to the other stances. And so is there a new Legends where it's I'm a katana dual wielder, or I'm just a rifle character, or stuff like that. And so where you have classes that are based on those weapon types. And I think that would be really cool, especially because it's Legends, they don't have to stick to being realistic. You get a lot more magic stuff going on in those modes. So I think that's got huge potential. They didn't talk about the multiplayer, so I would guess that the multiplayer is probably not going to be ready at launch, but I would be very surprised if it doesn't exist. Seeing how just how much they put into Legends after the fact. And then something I also wanted to bring up that kind of flies in the face of what we've been talking about on this episode, Sam, is that this is an open world game, and they seem like they really leaned into, you don't have to do anything in a specific order after like a specific point. So it's like how we want you to play the game is there's not like a journal where you go through your missions. It's you just open the map or you follow the wind to a point of interest. So in that sense, it kind of reminded me very much of like a Zelda, like Breath of the Wild. Like you can go and fight the big bad immediately if that's what you want to do, but it would probably be easier if you went around and took out all these other guys. So
yeah,
I'm a little tentative about getting excited about that. So I hope it doesn't harm the story having it framed in that way, I guess.
Yeah, I'm hoping that all that this means in reality, because you know how, we were just talking about how the promotional messaging around a game will really skirt the boundaries of reality in terms of like, okay, is that actually part of the plan, or did you just kind of like...
Yeah, throw an empty promise.
Is this a new feature, or are you just kind of getting flowery around... We structured it so that we don't annoy the player. Because what I'm hearing is that with the first game, it was very clearly structured in a way where like you had to continue the story of Jin Sakai to gain access to the northern countries of Tsushima. Mm-hmm. Like the central area and then the northern area was like very subsequent. Like you start in the far south, you fight your way through that really narrow strait, and then you're in the central area. Things open up a little bit more, but you still don't have access to the north where it's all kind of like in the mountains and snowy and stuff.
Yeah.
Until the end of the game. I'm hoping that all it is that it's like, okay, like the first two guys that you have to hunt in this gang are in very specific areas. We've closed it off so that like your character gets a sense of progression. Like there's a tool set we need her to get before she goes to the rest of the island. Yeah. But then after you get to that point, we haven't structured the story, which I still hope is very chronological, because again, I think I, like you, I'm like, I don't need this to be so open-ended that you don't write the story well for me.
Yeah.
I'd much prefer you to shoehorn me a little bit so that those storylines are told as well as you could. I hope that it's just that the open world elements are all within reach at that point. Not that the story isn't structured in a chronological order. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think to kind of go along with that, they definitely made a push. This was kind of later in the State of Play video, but they definitely made a push to make like Ghost of Yotei like a vibe. Where it's like we've got a lo-fi playlist that's just in the game automatically.
The Samurai Champloo lo-fi hip-hop beats.
Yeah, and it's just like at first I was like, like what is this doing there? And then I sat and I thought about it. I was like, this is a vibe, and they're definitely going for the pod enthusiasts out there. And it definitely, to me, it makes it even more feel like this is a game I want on a console, so I can sit on my couch and play this. If I'm like not doing anything specific in the game, I'm just like, oh, I don't know, I'll follow the wind and see where it takes me.
I'm also excited. I don't know if they ever patched this in Ghost of Tsushima. I don't think they did, but I'm really just excited that they finally got a They finally got the lip sync in for Japanese dialogue.
Yes.
Because I always wanted to do the Akira Kurosawa filter for the first game, and I am so nitpicky about my visuals, especially when I'm playing a game that's supposed to kind of rest on its, this game has very good graphics. Mm-hmm. Enjoy the game partially because look how gorgeous it is.
Yeah.
It bothered me to no end that they were like, we have lip sync and English voice acting. But even though we recorded an entire Japanese cast, and we know a lot of people are going to be playing this because it's supposed to be like authentically Japanese, or at least as authentically Japanese as like any open world adventure game has ever been. Mm-hmm. It just bugged me to no end to see them speaking English and then hearing Japanese over it. I'm like, but they're Japanese. This is so weird. This is so weird to look at. This like old samurai general dude having this amazing monologue, and it It defies all reason. I don't know Japanese. I still have to look away from their mouth to read the subtitle. It doesn't make any sense that it would bother me this much, but I'm so glad that they fixed that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just, with anything dubbed or anime or anything like that. I mean, anime gets away with it because the mouth movements are very, generic, usually.
It's not one-to-one.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll edit it so that, the mouth opening and closing.
Sure.
They can change the frames out in a way that the syncs a little bit better.
Yeah, it bothers me too, and it bothered a lot of people when Ghost of Tsushima released. So I don't think you're in a minority there. But I'm glad to see that basically all of the fixes that they added to Ghost of Tsushima as it continued to get updated over a couple of years are just day one. We have this ready. And to me, that does something that, we've talked a lot about, where it's this idea that the second iteration in a franchise is usually the best one because you have that foundation already built. So you're not making something from nothing. It's like, we already have the foundation. How do we refine everything and just make it better? And then usually with the third game, it's like, okay, we're kind of running out of ideas now. And so what do we do for the third game? So in that respect, I saw everything I kind of needed to see in this state of play from this game. I guess the game is very pretty. I am still craving this Unreal 5, amazing game experience. It's not to say the game is ugly by any means. It's very pretty. I kind of wanted to be wowed a little bit more aesthetically, but that's like a very, very picky thing. Just to throw some sort of criticism in there.
Well, this is where you'll be kicking yourself for buying it day one on the PS5 when what you should have bought was Ghost of Yotei Gold Edition, which is coming out in 9 months and it's PS5 Plus exclusive, and
yes,
all those features you're looking for are waiting for you there, buddy. You just gotta pay for a more expensive PlayStation right before they announce the PS6.
Yep, $700 nonsense that they launched.
What are you gonna do? No, I agree with you. I think that I've been inundated with so many promos. They'll do some big conference will run around, and all the devs will pack their things and they'll go to Stockholm or wherever the fuck they go. All these nerds, and they all sit in a room, and then Epic shows up and they're like, we took Keanu Reeves and made him into a 3D model, and here's a whole, we spent the last year and way too much money on this thing where we switch cameras between them to make a point about how realistic. You see all these things come out, and then the games that come out that actually utilize it are, pretty few and far between.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you.
It's just tech demos. This generation has also been not the big graphical leap that a lot of that we've gotten in the past. So I get it sort of. But anyway, the game still looks really pretty. I'm still very excited for it. Ghost of Yotei is going to be coming out on October 2nd. Or, on October 1st at 9 p.m. if you're on the Pacific coast of the United States. Very excited about it. Going to be a day one purchase for me. I could definitely use it because I want to get my hands on a thick single player experience just to enjoy, and that I can press the pause button on, and walk away from it when I need to walk away from it. So
I've got to say, I just started Clair Obscur, and just a turn-based strategy. It's so exciting, but every now and then I forget that I'm like, oh wait, I can do nothing. I can just set this down and go get a drink.
I can just walk away.
Nothing's gonna happen. Wonderful. I can just live my life and enjoy myself, even if it's a tough game. Awesome. Yeah, as a Souls enjoyer, this is something that I have definitely traumatized myself away from remembering, because that game is all just there's no pause.
No.
You do not pause, Souls. You die and go back to safety.
Yep.
And you think about
what you did or didn't do.
Everything that you didn't do right.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap it up for episode 85 Ep.85 of the GGG Podcast. Thank you for joining us. If you liked this episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're listening to the audio-only version on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, follow us over there as well. Thank you, Sam, for being our substitute this week. Appreciate it. Appreciate all your opinions
on having me.
Yeah, on Mass Effect and Battlefield. There's lots of good stuff to talk about this week, so sometimes it helps.
Very meaty.
Yes, very, very meaty podcast. So we'll be back next week where hopefully Phil will tell us if Donkey Kong Bonanza actually lives up to the excitement that everybody is saying. So yeah. All right, have a good week, everybody. Peace out.